Hi, friends. This is Sanjay Parihar. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a technologist, and as we mentioned, that we're gonna bring some great notable faces here. So here we are with Mr. Tarun Gulati, a former CEO of Zubo and managing director of Himalayan Hotel. Welcome to our show, Mr. Tarun.
Hi Sanjay, thanks for calling me. Good to see you.
Great to have you here. And along with you, Dr. Andra has also joined with us. Hey, Anand.
Yeah, hi Sanjay, and hello.
Hi, Doctor.
Great. All right, so let me get to the first, which is very interesting question here. When I looked at Mr. Tarun Gulati, former CEO of Zubo and managing director of Himalayan Hotels, this is definitely, having a startup and a hotel chain itself. That's not a very simple journey. It requires a lot of passion and hard work, right? And a lot of uncertainty. So tell us your inspiration journey as such.
Oh, great. Sanjay, so basically the journey for me began around 2005 is when I passed out of my MBA college. I am Bangalore. And I took up my first job at a private equity fund. That was ICICI Venture. It used to be the largest private equity fund in India those days. Spent a couple of years there. Spent 5 more years at DJUBO and Company, which was a private equity fund in Gurgaon, which was a US headquartered private equity fund.
I know.
And so over the 6 or 7 years that I spent in private equity, one of the big things that I noticed around me was that all the entrepreneurs and CEOs and business leaders that we were meeting, they were full of energy and a lot of passion, and that was something that really sort of inspired me and attracted me. And I wanted it for myself. So and in any case, I figured that I always had this entrepreneurial instinct in me to get started on my own, to build an organization around me or multiple organizations where I could play meaningful roles. And I was also sort of heading a few things, for example, in both my college and my post-graduation, a part of the entrepreneurship cell, organizing business plan contests and a lot of such things. So when I look back today, I always see that business was all around me. I was always interested in entrepreneurs and reading up about them and understanding why and what motivates them and drives them. So I guess it was meant to be that I went into private equity, was always surrounded by entrepreneurs trying to make meaningful contributions to our portfolio companies. So in my career, then I spent a substantial time in a variety of portfolio companies, and also must have evaluated a lot of sectors. So I must have spent time in a lot of time in education, real estate, renewable energy, retail, even .coms, hospitality was something that attracted me in any case, because my dad had set up a property in Rishikesh when he was around. He passed away in 1998. So that was something that was always in the back of my mind. So in 2011, which was post the global financial crisis, 3 years after that, we had managed to exit all our positions that I was sort of a part of at DJUBO. And I've realized that I had seen enough around me. I had evaluated enough sectors. I had seen, worked in teams, worked on meaningful transactions. At that time, one of the transactions that I was involved in as a 3-people team was the largest private equity transactions in India till that time. And we had exited that. So I had seen the whole life cycle of investments, investment thesis, promoters, even intense legal battles, and also very good outcomes in terms of companies playing, living up to their business plan, and an amicable exit being seen. So I felt that I'd seen enough in terms of finances, legals, businesses. So I thought the time was right for me to jump in any case. So the first problem that I took up was to turn around this property, which was supposed to be looked after by me for between 1998 and 2011. That's when my dad had passed away. But I wasn't. I was focused on first studying and professional career, and the property had really reached a stage where a few months before I took it over, and a few months still after my takeover, I was practically keeping the show running out of my own pocket. The business was not
Wow.
strong enough to sustain itself.
Wow.
And it was an old structure which needed a lot of maintenance, a lot of turnaround, etc., etc. So and I had no formal hospitality training or experience. So the only thing I knew was to own the problem, to sit there every day, understand understand issues at the ground level, observe behaviors at the ground level, observe people. First, try to identify people I want to keep close to me, and identify people that I want to change and bring in new talent, and then start from there. So it required for a good 3.5 years I was sort of managing at the same time the entire renovation of the property, the entire process turnaround, the entire team overall, positioning the property again in the market. In those days, online used to be small, and we are not talking a long time back. This was only 2000, between 2011 and 14. So and travel agents and walk-ins and this kind of stuff used to be strong. In fact, travel agencies used to be the number one distribution channel, and relationships used to really matter. And what we and in back in those days, what I realized was that for any property to get stable, it required at least 3 to 4 years of good word of mouth and consistent service. Because the quickest way to do it would be that year one you renovate, year two you get your fam trips done, year three you appear in the brochures, year four you get your first group from an important agent. So that it used to be that long, the life cycle. So it was, but luckily, what I was observing around me was that around 2013-14, things had changed so much that I noticed that online started becoming bigger. In India, the action was being being played out in Make My Trips, Yatra, Clear Trip, Expedia, Booking.com. All these guys were coming in. There were about eight or nine of them. So and then there was TripAdvisor, obviously, for reviews, and there was Holiday IQs, and we realized that user behavior was changing in a big way. And so one thing led to the other, and my takeaway at around 2014-15 was that distribution was the key that differentiates a good hotel from a bad hotel. And distribution alone can't make a hotel successful. Obviously, the product has to live up to the to the PR that you can do for it. I mean, the first group that comes in or the second group that comes in, if the product doesn't stand up, then it's obviously dead. But distribution can make a substantial difference to your fortunes, because I've still seen that years after that thesis, and I must have seen close to 5,000 hotels that in India closely. And I've noticed that even if there are two structures looking similar, standing next to each other, similar room type, similar location, similar cost structures, but one is just fundamentally better distributed because it is run by someone who focuses on online and distribution and word of mouth more than the other. There's a substantial difference in fortunes.
Wow.
And I also concluded in a way was one of the thesis that I developed was that just because of the way hospitality cost structure is built, this high fixed cost, so revenue is the biggest differentiator, and your margins can go up from even 20% to even up to 30-40% if you manage distribution better, and that is a high EBITDA margin business if you are able to manage the distribution and reach better. So we realized that because online was opening up in a big way, there were not enough products which were sort of helping hotels marry operations with distribution, with revenue management and reputation management, and doing all of that on a real-time basis, on a dynamic basis. There was nothing out there. I mean, there were expensive integrations or solutions that were stitched together between expensive products which were only affordable by the big 5-star chains, and very, very costly. But there was nothing there for the long tail. And I, in fact, even became the first user of many global products for specific use pain points within the hotel. But we realized that it needs we need to look at this problem from the grounds up, and if there is nothing out there, then why don't we start building something like that? So that's where the entire tech play started. So I've said narrated a long story till here. Happy to take it in a direction that you want.
And it's great. I mean, and then it turns out to be a big company like Zubo, right? And then it's a great. Yeah.
So around 2014 we got funded. 2015 we got funded. We had started in 2014. After about 12 odd clients, we raised our first round, and so it's been 5 years since then. We've raised 2 equity rounds, and till last year I was running the show. I was CEO and co-founder. Now I'm co-founder director. My co-founder is taking the show forward. It's the business has managed to reach about 30 countries, and in India it's well entrenched. We have presence in about 180 cities, and there has been incoming interest, but I see the business evolving in different manners. There was my co-founder had an approach that we needed to position and structure the product differently, and I thought it's best to let him take the road forward from here, while I went back into my prime passion of hospitality and building the next property that I always wanted to build.
Wow.
So while we had acquired land, and we were when we had got pre-approvals for building, then the COVID crisis stuck, and we're just stuck at home, and we are waiting for things to settle down now.
Right. And in that regard, let me ask this question. We heard that Ganga Kinare, Rishikesh, you plan to start at June 8th.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So with that, I mean, how are you taking all the precautions for post COVID-19? Not post COVID-19, during this time. Operation. Yeah.
So the government has circulated the government has not just circulated one long list. There have been 4 long checklists that have come already. So there is that, and all checklists look different, but there are big overlaps. Then the state government has new checklists that it has. And then there are big checklists by the OTAs, because they want to brand properties as secure properties. So they want the hotel to self-declare and sign up and self-declare and say that we are following all this. And then there are these auditors which are asking for a fee for even bigger 5-page checklists. So it's not fundamentally possible for us to satisfy all checklists, but I think all precautions that are that we would like to see if I were traveling as with my family, and what I see in good hospitals or good sort of hotels in a larger metropolitan are being done. For example, there's a lot of focus on high touch point areas, contactless check-ins, no room service, and distancing, and time gap between 2 bookings, distances between rooms being check-in. So we will not be opening up 100% occupancy. We'll try to maintain that there are no people in adjacent rooms even. There are 48 hours between check-ins for the same room. And of course, but I think the number one focus has to be staff training and staff awareness. So on that we've spent substantial time already. And and of course equipping them with basic hygiene stuff like the PPE kits and masks and disinfectants and hand sprays and sanitizers in every room and every table. And one of the things that we are trying to do from our side is that on our website we've put up a link where we are self-declaring their basic health metrics that we can measure every day. So what does their Arogya Setu app show? We are self-declaring that for all employees at the hotel, and we're also self-declaring their day-to-day temperature readings, just to build confidence in people that look, our guys are not getting affected. What we've also done as an extra step is that the basic staff that we want to run the engine with for at least the next 3-4 months, we have already housed them at the property for the last 2 months. They're not going out and they're not going back to home. So
Wow.
they're staying at the property, and they would not be traveling out, so that we can reduce the risk of contamination.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to take practical measures which are doable, and hoping that our guests would understand that we are trying to do our best. We are standing behind our word at least, and we are taking precautions that we would like to see as travelers ourselves.
Right, right, and very well mentioned. I mean, so basically, it is combination of technology, process, training, and kind of you see, I like the way you mentioned about the metrics and putting that metrics together so that you show that progression to the people and
Yeah,
consumer
yeah.
that will give more confidence to consumer. That's another thing which we are trying to do. We're gonna connect to a lot of consumer down the line, and we'll take their
Hmm.
feedback, what they are looking for from
Hmm.
hotels. So kind of having that communication as well. Now, tell us something more about the location of the hotel. It is very interesting location. As such, we talk about Hotel Ganga Kinare.
Yeah, so it's one of the few properties that you'd find located right on the banks of the Ganges.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a private ghat. It's so the Ganges. It's very interesting, the story behind the Ganges. So the Ganges actually becomes the Ganges at a point called Devprayag,
Mm-hmm.
which is a point which is 60 kilometers upstream from Rishikesh, and that is where the river. There are two tributaries of the Ganges called Alaknanda and Bhagirathi. Both of
Mm-hmm.
them are distinctly different colors. One is dark, very
Ah.
dark, almost black,
Oh. Oh.
and the other is a light brown color. And those two rivers, they come together at a point
Beautiful.
and it becomes the Ganges, only 60 kilometers upstream from our property,
Wow.
and and about 3 or 4 kilometers downstream from our property is the first hydro project that on the Ganges. It's a small project, it's a hydel project, power project.
Mm-hmm.
So the stretch between practically our property and Devprayag is the cleanest and most beautiful and most picturesque stretch of the Ganges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the advantage that we see is that on the other side of the river is a declared forest reserve. So there is no
Mm-hmm.
construction that can happen on the other side of the river from us. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when you're at the property, you're not only at the banks of the Ganges, you see this gigantic valley in front of you, and
Mm-hmm.
the Rajaji National Park, and there are you can spot tigers and as well as elephants sitting at the
Mm-hmm.
property. So tiger sightings are rarer, but elephant
Mm-hmm.
sightings are very, very, very common. In fact,
Oh.
every day these days in summers, there are elephants who come and take a dip. They walk
Uh-huh.
almost up to the middle of the river. So
Uh-huh.
there are pictures that we put up on the Facebook. So it's an interesting mix of religious, come wildlife, come yoga, come
Mm-hmm.
meditation, come adventure sports destination. It's also called the yoga capital of the world, and as a
Right.
destination, it's very, very popular, and we are lucky to have the location that we have.
Mm-hmm. Wow, wow. And another thing, another interesting aspect, if we see booking.com, makemytrip.com, the
Yeah.
hotel is, highly, highly rated. Consumer definitely, it's very tough to tough job to maintain the high standard as such. Tell us more about that. I mean, how do you do that overall?
It's a
That's the
mix
hardest
of
question, right?
yeah, it's a mix of I would say a mix of tech,
Mm-hmm.
mix supervision, very, very passionate supervision,
Mm-hmm.
choosing the right team which
Mm-hmm.
cares about small things, and
Mm-hmm.
basically doing the same thing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I know and meet and are friends with a lot of hoteliers. One of them is a guy called Manish Sinha. He actually, interestingly, once upon a time was one of the co-founders of Oyo, but
Uh-huh.
he also runs a small property chain called Cinnamon Stays. And I was sharing notes with him. So, till date, one of the
Mm-hmm.
first things that we do when we get up every
Uh-huh.
morning without fail, both of
Uh-huh.
us do, and we go and sit at the loo, and we
Uh-huh.
open our phone.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We open our phone and we check whether we have a bad review on TripAdvisor, because TripAdvisor refreshes its review at 12 noon India time, or 12
Mm.
midnight India time. So
Mm.
that's how much both of us care about our reviews, our online
Mm.
reviews. The first thing we do every day,
Mm.
we want to read what people have written. And so that it starts right at the top, where someone who really cares about what people have written, someone who
Right.
really personally identifies with what people say about you.
Right.
And if someone says a bad thing, then you should take it personally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It should make you feel like you have let down the guest, or your team and your management, and you've let down the guest. So so that is where it begins. The other thing we do is that we use a product which we ourselves created called Starsight. It's a part of
Mm-hmm.
Jubo, where
Mm-hmm.
we scrape all available online reputation platforms for what
Mm-hmm.
people are writing. So TripAdvisor, I can check some
Yeah.
basic ones that I know, but I can't track everywhere what people are writing.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me a report every morning of what have people written, and it gives me a nice summary of what were the main pain points. I mean, was it
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi? Was it a
Mm-hmm.
housekeeping issue, or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way we solve it. The other is that the third is we have the HODs
Mm-hmm.
have to, they know how much I care about it,
Mm-hmm.
and no one in our system can survive if they don't care enough.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So if they don't care enough, then it comes out very, very quickly, and they can't keep up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's for them to survive in the system, it's very important that they care enough about good reviews and not letting people complain. And so it sort of evolves if at the top you really care about it. So that's one way we do it. But that said, we are an old structure, and we realize that no matter how much impetus we give,
Mm-hmm.
beyond a point, it becomes a question where you have to accept that you can't control everything also. So
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a choice between spending infinitely to make
Make
sure
it better.
we keep
Right.
everyone happy, and keep
Right.
and try to find a sweet spot where we feel that we found a spot where we have repeat customers. We realize
Mm-hmm.
that we can't make, let's say, an Indian family of with 12 kids running around happy because we don't have a
Mm-hmm.
large swimming pool. But we know
Right.
we can really delight this 80 group of 80 Germans who are coming for a meditation retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So once that acceptance comes in, then we started realizing that we need to find a niche, and let's accept that we can't keep everyone happy, and let's try
Mm-hmm.
and keep our core user group happy, and
Mm-hmm.
try to make our marketing, communication, and all our presence in line
Mm-hmm.
with our core user group.
Hmm. And great. I mean, so there's a couple of referring point, and I have more question around that. One is a star site you mentioned. That's another product within Zubo,
Yeah,
or
so it's a online reputation management product which
imagine. Okay.
which helps you track what people are writing, try
Mm.
to compartmentalize, filter, and apply. We use NLP logic, natural language
Mm. Mm-hmm.
processing logic, to sort of read and comprehend adjectives, nouns, because it's like a computer reading
Right.
sentences.
Right.
You can't read
Sentiment
a
analysis.
sentiment
Sentiment
analysis,
analysis. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then bucket it, and then sort of present
Mm.
it visually for you to take
Mm.
the understand what's going wrong where. So it's
Mm.
for a single property, there is a use case, but for a chain, the use case is much
Much
stronger.
larger. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can obviously respond from a single dashboard to all reviews and stuff like that.
It looks very interesting and very useful. Very useful. And I mean, especially being technologists, I can imagine how hard is it to, if you have chain, then having everything in one place.
Yeah.
Now, second aspect, team, right? I mean, you mentioned that there's a motivate team also, which like takes care of those reasons why there's a bad reviews, and there's a, how do you hire them? What are the things which you look into the employees as such? What are the things which you kind of, because maintaining the high standard, that's the key, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So I must have, between the between my professional career and the entrepreneurial journey, I think in terms of people, I must have hired, and not
Mm-hmm.
letting go the churn, looking at churn, but I must have hired close to 200 people, of
Mm-hmm.
which after churn, of course, the number would be much lesser who are actively employed. But I've realized that there are two or three things that I have understood about hiring,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the businesses that I've run, is that I'm not very good at evaluating tech capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't understand hospitality, so I don't know what question to ask a housekeeping guy. And because I'm not a coder myself, I don't know what's the right question to ask a software developer. But I can try and understand their backstory. That I think tells me a lot about a person.
Consumer behavior.
No, just the story of the person, what motivates him personally, and what's his background, and
psychology.
so there are yeah. So if I can relate to it, and if I can see that this position would be very valued by this person, and I have a feeling that we will be able to trust each other, then I sort of tend to go for it. But I've also realized, and one of my ex-director, Ashish Kashyap, who was IBO CEO and now he runs Indwealth, one of the things he said was that you can only hope to be 60% right with hiring. Because 50-50 is like a flip of the coin. And you can't hope to be more than 60% right, because there would be so many things that can go wrong.
Exactly.
So if you're 60% right and you're taking action quickly when you know that this is not working out, that's all you can hope to do.
Right. And then take care of the 40% in different way.
I mean, sort of try and figure out if we can upskill them, not sort of push them out of the system immediately, but try and see what's going wrong and try and give them enough, have a process to sort of give them at least 2 or 3 shots at getting it together. But if it's not working out, then be honest and upfront about it.
Right. So let's talk about your hotel again. The Hotel Ganga Kinare is a boutique hotel, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us more about the category. I mean, generally there are categories from 3, 4, 5 stars. So tell us more about the category as such.
So the Ministry of Tourism in India is supposed to give official categories. Now there are only, and this was still 3 or 4 years ago, I checked that there are only 2,400 rated hotels in India. Only 2,400. And while the universe of hotels in India, of identifiable hotels, which you would call hotels and not B&Bs, would be about 100,000 only. So only 2% are getting rated, and it's not mandatory to get rated. Rating itself, the process is so complicated that in a tier 2 town like ours, and which is a heritage town, we are supposed to have we're supposed to make expenses that are not logical for our client base and the kind of business that we have and the kind of number of rooms that we have. So, but at the same time, the online portals identify that they are not looking for official classification. They're looking for services which are of that standard. So we self-declare that we have services of a 4-star caliber, and our ratings anyway are well above 4.4, 4.3, 4.5 out of 5 across platforms, which shows that people believe that we have 4-star and plus capabilities. I think these 2 data points that you see online are enough to convince or satisfy people that with this price point and this rating and this self-declared rating, this seems like a reliable product. And so that's what so we didn't really go for official rating, but we stand behind the service declaration that we make.
Yeah, I mean, well, the hotel, and the nature and activities around itself tells everything else, right? So, Anand, it's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I can see, Ganga Kinare, as name suggests, it is a river-facing hotel. And I'm sure a lot of customer might be asking for a river-facing room also. So, could you tell us what are different room types which are available with the hotel, and of course the river-facing side of it?
Yeah, sure. So all rooms have a view of the river, but there are some rooms which have a 180-degree view. Some rooms which have a partial view of the river. About 50% of the properties have of the rooms have a 180-degree view of the river, right at the end of the river, with a full view of the Shivalik Hills, as well as a view up of the mountains, the forest, the city. And but there's not a single room where you can't see the river. So practically from every room there's a view.
Great.
Wow.
And of course, like the cuisine is very important part, for any businesses in hotel industry. So nowadays, a large chunk of revenue comes from that side of as well. So, what kind of cuisines you offer to your clients, and of course, including your local cuisines, if are all there in your hotels.
Yeah, so this was actually a longer journey than even getting our distribution right. Getting the food right was very difficult. So and I, while I'm a foodie, and as a couple, me and my wife enjoy food a lot, and we enjoy global cuisine. It was not easy for us to realize after 8 or 9 years that you can't please everyone. You shouldn't have a menu which is meant for a global audience, because when we visit Spain, I'm not looking for a hamburger, but so every traveler is looking for that regional cuisine, and the property should stand for bringing out local cuisine, and you should put it on a pedestal and present it, and sort of escalate the experience, and really value and love your own product. So from a very confused menu, we had to take outside help to reach a stage where now we feel much more comfortable about our food offerings. So we got an F&B intervention done by Chef Arun Tyagi, who's the head of who's been the head of F&B of a bunch of large five-star chains like Radisson, ITC, etc., etc. So we worked closely with him for almost 5 to 6 months, where he retrained the entire staff. I mean, he's one of those few interventionists who believes in not changing employees, working with the current set of the hotel employees, and then upskilling them and revamping the whole menu. So we did that last in 2018, and between 18 and 19, just in F&B alone, we saw a 35% jump, and it showed sort of that people were uh, and at a higher ticket size, and everything, local cuisine at a higher ticket size. So we showed that people were accepting it, people were enjoying it. Then we rebranded the F&B offering. So food journey has been very interesting, but the important elements, we also realized that in the food journey, because we're a property which aims to have a lot of repeat direct guests, we can't be stagnant. So we have to 2020 was going to be the year where we have to refurbish it again. But I guess whenever we do it, we have to replan and redo it, the whole thing again, because we don't want you to come again next year and see the same things on the menu either. So that was the most interesting recent bit of learning on the F&B side that we got.
Wow.
Great.
And while we talk about, you a little bit covered on the activity side also. So like if people come there, what are the activities they can do around the hotel and in the hotel as such?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do is that we've we have an assortment of Rishikesh specific activities. So we have this spiritual walk that we organize every day. There's a guide who will take you from the property on a riverside esplanade called the Asta Path, which we have access to. You'll walk 2 kilometers all the way till Triveni Ghat, which is where the grand evening aarti happens. And along the way, there would be small temples that you will see, where the guide will take you through the significance of each temple. And then after the property, you will get to walk around the small local bazaar, which is right behind the Triveni Ghat. The small items that they sell around the property, and the evening preparations, and the local street food vendors standing there, and all the buzz is what we cover in the evening spiritual aarti. Then and obviously all of this is included in all of this is our inclusions within the pricing. And then we also have a very good yoga and meditation, complimentary morning yoga meditation session, which is a must-have for all travelers interested in Rishikesh. Along with that, then there are sightseeing possibilities within Rishikesh and Haridwar. Rishikesh is blessed to have tons of spiritually significant spots. And Nilkant Mahadev, which is a very ancient and important Shiva temple, which has a great history and story behind it. To a very mystic cave that I personally really enjoy. It's called Vashisht Gufa.
Oh.
And this is an ancient cave which is now sort of becoming shorter every year because there is some mount activity going on with some, the stones inside the cave are sort of falling, and the cave is becoming shorter. But that's a cave which again has a long history, and the vibrations that you feel in the cave just with a 30-minute meditation are next to are something else. And so there are these beautiful, very mystic spots and stories around Rishikesh, and sort of we can cover all of that for you. And of course, it's becoming the adventurous hotspot for the country because of the fact that the Ganges is it's in its pristine and most adventurous avatar. With the rapids and grade 1 to grade 4 rapids, and the most important rapid is called the Wall, and I've done it a couple of times without
Did
talking
you?
over.
Wow.
So
I did some in Colorado River, so I know it's very difficult. Yeah.
But the grade 1 rapids in Ganges are supposed to be one of the best in the world, by the way.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interest in Rishikesh because that's how we can organize all of that for you as well. So there's a lot of action, and we sort of cover a lot of stuff that we can.
And while we are about to wrap up our call, my question to you is: today, the consumer or tourist are a little bit scared because of the obvious reasons, right? What is your suggestion to them, or what is your, what you want them to think overall before they start touring again?
So I can't emphasize enough that because there is no treatment or vaccine, I don't think it's right to say that everything's fine. We can't make that claim. We don't know enough. But one has to be rational and prudent also. I think there are various ways in which statistics can be read, and if you're inbuilt, I mean, you can read it as an influenza plus, an influenza which sounds a bit more scary because there is no vaccine, etc. But if you're taking enough precautions, and if you're very careful, and if the property that you are visiting seems to have taken precautions, then it should be okay for you to take that leap of faith. And we certainly are doing what we can from our side to tell people that we are absolutely doing our bit, and we would be happy to look after you should you choose to come over. And all the Namaskar. The whole world is going through probably the biggest crisis we have ever seen, and we at Ganga Kinare have taken this quite seriously. Over the last 2 months, we have taken the time to improve our focus on staff health, their awareness, their training, and improvement in housekeeping procedures, and also started real-time tracking of their health metrics. In fact, we are also sharing it live on our website, which you can see on the link below. Ganga Kinare is blessed to be situated in a quiet part of town. We are right next to the Ganges, and we are blessed to have lots of vast open spaces in and around our property. We are also a short drive from the city of New Delhi. Should you choose to stay with us, you can rest assured that the entire staff and management of Ganga Kinare are with you and will take utmost care of you and your family. Hope to see you soon. Let's rebuild this world together. Thank you very much. Necessary precautions, access to basic precautions are there, and access to doctors are there, etc. if something were to happen, etc. So everyone needs to take their own everyone needs to look at stats carefully again and needs to take a call. I don't think if this is going to last for another 12 to 18 months, I don't know how many people have it in them to just sit inside their house for 12 to 18 months. I mean, travel is a necessary part of our existence. And so that sector has to open up. And I think people will aggregate towards properties where they would worry less about price point, but more about health health
Health.
related aspects. So if both sides sort of want to trust each other, then I think there are enough properties that are out there willing to showcase their capabilities and to sort of tell people that we are doing our bit and happy to entertain if you guys choose to come out.
Absolutely. And we just want to share one thought. We were having a consumer interview from Malaysia, and they were traveling quite a bit in India, and they were talking about if that certain things on the green zone, they can start thinking about traveling again. So those are some of the thought process which we are getting by interviewing some of the consumers outside India. So with that thought, yeah, go ahead. Tarun, you were about to say something?
No, I was just saying that yeah, drivable distances is definitely
Mm.
something that should be looked at. I mean, people, let's say Delhi is a big feeder market for us and within drivable distance. So
Yeah.
we're not telling people from Bombay to take a flight and come here. If you want to really travel and get a change, then find a villa near Bombay or Bangalore. But if
Right.
you're in Delhi and want something within drivable distance which is safe, then do consider us because we are doing our bit.
Great, great. And with that thought, thank you very much, Tarun, to be here. Please stay on. We have some other follow question, but for this conversation, thank you very much, Tarun.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Anand.